Welcome to Section 420, Talkin Yankees. So the Major League trade deadline passed and the Yankees came up with peanuts. The mission for GM Brian Cashman was to get another starting pitcher in here, but a pretty good starting pitcher. Obviously with the underwhelming performance of James Paxton and Happ being up and down and Tanaka having a good game, bad game. You know you trust Tanaka in October. No really word when Severino's going to come back, as well as Domingo Germán. Never thrown this innings before in his career. At some time he's going to get tired out. They really had to bring in someone here, especially someone that could perform in October, and this doesn't seem the Yankees could really find anybody, and as well as, maybe a reliever as well as some of these guys like Ottavino and Britton and Chapman, as their innings pile up, maybe get another arm in there. I know Betances is coming back, but perhaps they could have found another arm, but really the Yankees came up with absolutely nothing, which is kind of surprising even for the Yankees. I mean, sometimes they just make a move just to make a move, just to get a headline, but really they did absolutely nothing at the trade deadline. And it's difficult to judge Brian Cashman too harshly for coming up short in terms of finding a starting pitcher, because really, realistically, there was no deals out there. Of course, the really marquee name, the name that really would have made a difference you would want is, of course, Madison Bumgarner. But, San Francisco Giants turned this season around. They're in the wild card hunt, and they're just not going to make him available. They're not going to go to that fan base, hey, we're in the hunt, but we're going to trade away our ace. So just realistically, that wasn't going to happen. And let's just say by some miracle, they made him available. They were going to ask for the stars and the moon and the ground and everything else and everything at a Yankee Stadium. They'll probably ask for all the Yankee World Series trophies from the past. So again, there was no way they were going to get their hands on Madison Bumgarner. So you look at some of the other names they were throwing out there. Marcus Stroman, decent pitcher. Now the Yankees and Blue Jays have done business in the past, and I think the people say, well, they want to deal within the same division, but I mean the Blue Jays are so far out of it. In fact, the Blue Jays sent the Yankees Happ last season, so I don't think they had any problem doing business with each other. But they ended up actually sending Stroman to the Mets. Now, it could have been a situation where they said, hey, Yankees, give us a little more, or we're going to trade him to the Mets, and Cashman might be like, all right, fine, send him to the Mets. So it's really no big loss. I mean, Stroman's good, but he's not really a difference maker. He's not great. So that deal wasn't happening. And, of course, the Indians are throwing out Trevor Bauer there. He actually ends up with the Reds. But, again, the Indians, they're a team that the Yankees might even face in October. Who knows, whether it's some wild card round, American League Championship Series. It just doesn't make sense that they would actually trade him and send him to a rival, the Yankees. So, realistically, he wasn't coming to New York. And then last but not least, we'll cover Zach Wheeler from the Mets. Again, kind of a high-profile player for the Mets. It'll be a high-profile deal. But it just didn't seem like the Mets would give Wheeler a guy. Again, he's a ton of potential, kind of good moments, bad moments for the Mets. But, to see him go to the Yankees and thrive, I just don't think the Mets could, withstand that, especially with their fan base and everything like that. So the Mets actually standed pat with that, kept Wheeler. And again, just realistically, they weren't going to send him to the Yankees. This wasn't going to happen. And in fact, the Mets just kind of go for it with getting Stroman and keeping Wheeler, who everyone thought Wheeler would be dealt with someone. But no, they're going to keep him. They're going to, NL wildcard is kind of open still, even though the Mets have been kind of a terrible team this year. But it is kind of open. This is how weak the NL has been this season. So the Mets are going for it. So overall for Cashman, there was really no move to be made, and they probably figured out, you know what, we'll get Severino back eventually. That's kind of like making a deal, and you're going to get Dylan Betances back eventually, even though we've been hearing that same story month after month and month. But they have been throwing off flat ground, so it does seem like there is a little progress where they're coming back, and they figure, all right, you know what, we've gotten this far with our squad. We'll get into the playoffs, and we'll see what happens. And if they have to use one of these openers, whatever, for one of the games, so be it. And in terms of good news of injuries coming back, both Luis Severino and Dylan Betances have started throwing on flat ground. So soon those transition to throwing on the mound, great increase. But it just quickens their timeline of coming back. And I guess, with not getting a starting pitcher by the trade deadline, there are options for the Yankees. Of course, Betances is someone you throw out in the bullpen. Of course, another arm that this help give some other guys like Ottavino a break, Canely a break. Those right-handers who the Yankees have been relying on quite heavily. And El Severino, I just don't think there's been enough time, to build up his stamina. Again, he didn't even have a spring training. You need some starts. You got to build up stamina where you can go 5-6 innings, throw 100 pitches. So I don't think he'll get there by September, October, but it doesn't mean he can't be a weapon out of bullpen. So let's say, for example, instead of getting a starter, they use their opener. They've been doing it with Chad Green, and the teams, they've won their first 8 games doing that. So you might do that for one of the playoff games. You go Chad Green for the first inning, then Severino, who maybe doesn't have the endurance for 6 innings, but maybe has the endurance for 3 really great innings where he just come there and just blaze his fastball and blow people away. And then you get to the 5th, 6th inning, and that's when you could go to your Ottavinos and your Betances and Britton and Chapman and all those good guys. So Severino still could be a weapon. Or to see, one of those playoff games where he just comes out of the bullpen. Maybe it's tied in the 9th inning, and he could go and take it into the 4th inning if it takes that. So just getting him back is good news. And again, he's not going to be a starting pitcher. He's not going to be an ace type until next season, but he can still be a great weapon for the Yankees. Now, a lot of fans saying, well, what about Deivi Garcia, the Yankee prospect? Unfortunately, though, they put him up in AAA, and he's been getting whacked around a little bit. So Maybe you might see him September just to throw an inning up there, but in terms of him being called up and being part of the Yankee starting rotation, not going to happen. And at the worst time, the trade deadline passes, and then the Yankees suffer two major blows. First, Luke Voigt goes down with his sports hernia. This is part of this core injury he had starting with the London series. He's going to have a hernia. He's going to be evaluated. And if he needs surgery, he could be out for 6 weeks. And realistically, you're looking at maybe he'll come back in September. Maybe he does, but it just it seems like a serious thing that's going to take a long time to recoup, even after a surgery. So if he comes back, I just don't think he's going to be as effective as he was. And of course, Edwin Encarnacion. Now he was the insurance policy, and at the time, wow, brilliant move because Voigt goes down and you just put Encarnacion there. Well, he gets hit by a pitch, fractures his wrist. Now he's gone for who knows how long. And again, if he comes back by September, you get it. Even if you're back, it's just you got to get some bats, you got to get some mustard on the. You're not going to be the same player as you were before. So two major blows to the Yankees. I consider both guys as done for the year, unless they come back and prove me wrong. They're pretty much done. Now, in a way, it kind of works itself out because he had all these extra players. When Didi came back, and you had Urshela and DJ LeMahieu, where you got to play all these guys. Well, now everything kind of fits into place. LeMahieu could take the first base, which he's been doing that for the Yankees, so that's no problem. You feel confident with him. Gio Urshela, great glove at third base. Again, he's been hitting well as well, so you feel confident in it. So that part's okay. But now with the trade deadline passed, you can't really pick anyone up. And because you're thinking, well, what about Greg Bird? Can you call Greg? No. I mean, he's still recovering from his plantar fasciitis. He's recovering that way, but he hasn't even resumed baseball activities yet. So again, he's probably done for 2019. So now you just kind of have to hold forward with these guys and just hope no one else gets hurt. When the trade deadline passed, to get another first baseman, Cashman's pretty much relegated to the scrap heap. Maybe find a guy that's been cut or DFA'd. But the chance of someone else cut or DFA'd is because they were no good with their team, so why would they be good with your team? But maybe you just need to fill a body out there and just hope maybe they give you something, find like a Lyle Overbay or something from back in the day and maybe contributes, because you're not going to get really a stud, first baseman at this point. Now, surprisingly, the Boston Red Sox did really nothing as well during the trade deadline, so it really doesn't make the Yankees look bad in that regard. And they really need help more than the Yankees, especially in their bullpen, which is just terrible. They have, closer by committee. Again, they didn't re-sign Craig Kimbrell. They let him walk. And, their bullpen's just been a disaster. And overall, the Boston Red Sox definitely not the team they were last year. And, definitely not that 108-win team. And their pitching's been terrible. They could use not even a starter, but Sale's been terrible, but they definitely need bullpen now. They really didn't go anybody. And Tampa Bay Rays, who their ace, Blake Snell, went down with elbow surgery. He's not going to be back September. Now, they're in the hunt as well, but they really didn't do anything. Not that you expect anything from Tampa anyway, because it's not a big money market team. They're not going to bring over a big guy making a lot of money, so that is a surprise. But the non-move by the Boston Red Sox, that kind of really surprised me. And with the Red Sox not making a move and the Yankees having a pretty commanding lead in the AL East, perhaps it is, raising the white flag for the season. Now, the big winners of the trade deadline clearly were the Houston Astros, landing Zach Greinke. Again, that's another pitcher that was out there, but let's just look at him first. There was no way Greinke was going to come to New York. First of all, he had New York on his no-trade list. And also Greinke, again, very good pitcher, good stuff, good quality pitcher, but a lot of anxiety problems. I mean, early on in his career, he even stated that he wouldn't want to be a part of a no-hitter because he wouldn't want the attention focused on him. A lot of psychological problems with anxiety, stuff like that. There's no way he would come to New York. I mean, he would just get crushed. I know he pitched for the Los Angeles Dodgers, and technically they're a big market team, but it's not the same here in New York. And there was just no way, realistically, he was going to come here. But Houston, to their credit, they picked him up the same way they picked up Verlander 2 years ago, and clearly now they leaped over the Yankees. I mean, they have overall right now, at least roster-wise, the best team in baseball. And if you just look at their frontline starters now, Verlander, Garrett Cole, another guy the Yankees were trying to chase a few times, has never happened. And now they add Zach Greinke to that, as well as Anibal Sanchez and Dan Baggini they got from the Blue Jays, so to bolster up the bullpen. So if you look at the starting rotation, their bullpen, and the offense they have, clearly, again, the best, probably the roster. American League, maybe in the case for baseball, except the Dodgers might have something to say about that. And for the Yankees, starting pitching, the starters between the Yankees and Houston, doesn't even compare to that. So they're going to face each other probably. If they face each other in the postseason, you got to give Houston the clear advantage. But again, doesn't mean anything. It's all on paper. But a great move by the Astros getting Greinke. And again, clearly now they have the best starting rotation in baseball. And the Cleveland Indians also did good at the trade deadline. Again, in that Trevor Bauer deal, 3-team deal, they ended up getting Yasiel Puig from the Cincinnati Reds, as well as Fermil Reyes from the San Diego Padres, two great sluggers they could put in their lineup. Now, again, they're chasing the Twins in the Central, as well as vying for a wild card spot. So, again, they're a team that the Yankees might be facing in October. The only good news is that no other team added Bumgarner, such as like the Minnesota Twins or the Houston Astros. And if they had Bumgarner, it would be like game over. So, The only good, fallout from the whole thing is that Bumgarner said in Giants, fine, National League West, stay out there, don't come to the American League. And another good thing is that Clint Frazier now is still a Yankee, which I was hoping they would keep him. Well, no deal, so as of now, still Frazier is a Yankee, as he should be. Now, Giancarlo Stanton, who's been injured for the whole season now, supposed to come back pretty soon, but now they're pushing him back even to September. So, but again, team's doing fine. He could just take his time, rest up, learn a new trade. Again, last time I said he should maybe take up pool, maybe he should take up, quilting, something like that. But it's really a true testament to this whole team that even just think about it. They've reached a 30-game over 500 plateau, pretty much running away with the AL East, and Giancarlo Stanton's only played 9 games the whole season, and Aaron Judge, who missed a chunk of the season, only has about a dozen home runs. So you have these, your two main big power sluggers pretty much giving you nothing, yet this team's running away with the AL East. So even if they give you something in September and October, it's really just good news. But this shows this overall, this team, all these contributions they're getting from Urshel or a Mike Troutman or Brett Garner, who you think is on his way out. Again, putting together a pretty darn good season. So maybe try convincing people to maybe come back for one more time. It's just a great testament to this team overall and Aaron Boone overall, who, again, when Aaron Boone came here, I was just kind of like, this guy's going to be a pushover, push button. He's just going to be a yes man, a cash man. Maybe he is that, but there's just something about him where when all these injuries have happened and the team just keeps winning. So, I don't know, maybe this is something special about Aaron Boone. I don't know. And as I mentioned, Brett Garner really contributing big this season. Again, previous seasons usually kind of burns out in August and September from playing so much, but really this season he's been great, contributing a lot. 15 home runs. I mean, he's probably on pace to hit about 20, which that's pretty darn good. And he was again a player. I figure he's on his last season, he'll be gone after this, and then the Clint Frazier play left field. But now he's making a strong case to come back for 2020, especially with Hicks, who just seems to get hurt all the time. Well, at least with Brett Garner, you have a great backup option for center field. So maybe see him again in 2020. Of course, the yin-yang of getting not too many home runs from Stanton and Judge that you're getting from some other areas, and mainly it's been Gleyber Torres putting together a fantastic season, tying Joe DiMaggio's record set in 1937 of having 5 multi-home run games before his 23rd birthday, and in terms of the record reaching total in his career, 47 home runs in only 225 games, the most for an American League infielder. This guy has a great future in front of him, and I'm sure a lot of these trade talks, a lot of it is for Gleyber Torres, and Cashman's like, no, and I don't blame him. I have to give credit to Mike Troutman. Again, I kind of thought it was a joke. It's got a guy, you bring him up here and just sort of fill in for a while till some guys come back. But, I mean, he's really picked up his game. Right now batting around 280, which you figure, well, 280 is not impressive, but literally he was at 100. And again, the Yankees picked him up from Colorado. I was like, what are they seeing this guy really? But he's really contributing, and he's kind of sneaky fast. He hustles a lot on the bases. He goes for it. He'll steal a base because you look at him, he doesn't look like a speed demon or anything like that. But he has surprising speed. He's been using that to his advantage, and he's been knocking some homers. 7 home runs with 29 RBIs. So just one of these guys that this Cashman finds. So all the criticism you want to give Cashman, for not coming up with the big start at the trade deadline, you got to give him kudos for finding, a Luke Voigt or finding a Mike Troutman. Again, guys who've been keeping this team afloat as everyone just keeps dropping on the IL, but it doesn't matter because someone like Troutman always steps up. Now, J-Happ hasn't had a good 2019 for the Yankees. Again, last season when they brought him over from the Blue Jays, he was great, going 7-0. Again, yes, had the bad start against Boston, but overall was a good contribution for the Yankees, and I thought it was the right move to re-sign him. This season, a little up and down, but recently had to go on paternity leave. Guess, had a baby in the family, and maybe that was playing with his head a little bit. And now that, the baby's here, maybe clear his head, and maybe he has a good finish to the season. Who knows? Now, for closer, Aroldis Chapman, of course, this is his last year in terms of being able to opt out. Again, he signed a 5-year deal, but after the 3rd year, he could opt out and try to get a better deal. Now, supposedly those rumors go out that his camp put out that he would opt out at the end of the season. And of course, when asked, Chapman denied it, so who knows? It's not something to really worry about right now. I mean, Chapman overall had a good season. He was an all-star. But again, of course, then with all that funky movement he has and throw 100 miles per hour, he's also a little shaky once in a while. And, if he does have to leave, again, the Yankees do have options. Again, that's kind of the genius of signing Zach Britton, who, again, is the former closer. So if Chapman happens to go, you can just insert Britton in there for 2020. But for now, I think you just want to focus on the season, if Chapman can save a game. And Aaron Boone has also made some news on the field, off the field. Basically one of his arguments with the umpires. I mean, he's a very quiet, mellow guy. It just seems with the umpires, though, he really gets into it. Of course, last season, remember, he bent and went into a catcher's position to show the umpire the strike zone. This time, he lets loose on an umpire after, again, disagreeing with balls and strikes. And he claimed that the Yankee hitters are savages in the box. So now this has kind of become like the 2019 mantra. Again, a couple of seasons ago with Todd Frazier was the thumbs down thing. This season it's all about savages in the box. Now, there is an F word in there that we can't use, so we're going to say savages in the box. Now, recently, both Mariano Rivera and Mike Mussina, former Yankees, of course, were introduced into the Baseball Hall of Fame. Now, of course, Mariano, no choice, wearing the Yankee cap. Mike Mussina, well, he had a bit of a choice, and he spent a lot of years with the Yankees or spent a lot of years with the Orioles. I could make the case for either. Probably should have been Oriole, but he went with a sort of a Manila generic, Hall of Fame hat. So, whatever, it's his choice. Now, CC Sabathia, who, again, this season, got to 3,000 strikeouts, and again, he's going to be over 250 wins. Pretty much going to be a shoo-in for Hall of Fame himself, and then the question was him, well, what hat will you wear? Well, he did announce that 2019, this will be his final season, so he has a chance to add on some wins. Obviously, he's not going to, pad a bunch. Only thing that could hurt him is maybe if he has some really bad clunkers, he could raise his ERA. But overall, I don't think the season's going to make or break it, so it's basically you add a few more wins and maybe lower your ERA a little bit. You give yourself a better shot. And we look at his all-time win-loss record of 247 wins against 154 losses. And again, we don't know how this season is going to end up, but it's just about 100 games over 500 for his career, same as Mussina was. And again, pitchers that usually have 100 games over for a lifetime career generally get in the Hall of Fame. Now, one of the knocks against him could be the ERA, lifetime 3.69. Now, currently in this season, it's 2.66, very low. So if he keeps on that pace, maybe he could bring it down a little bit, helps make his case even more. Putting 2019 aside, he's had 14 seasons of double-digit wins, 3 times winning 19 games, and of course, one time in 2010 winning 21 games for the Yankees. 6-time All-Star, but not only good in the regular season, pretty reliable in the postseason as well, with a career 10-7 record, ERA of 4.31. Now you say, yeah, the ERA is a little high, but you got to imagine, you're pitching in the playoffs, you're facing the best of the best in terms of the hitters. Probably his best moment was Game 5, 2013, the American League Division Series against the Baltimore Orioles, wins a decisive game at Yankee Stadium, goes on the mound, throws a complete game, and knocks the Orioles out, and the Yankees went on to advance to go against the Detroit Tigers. And he won more than 200 games with 2 different organizations, the Yankees and the Cleveland Indians. Now, what hurts Sabathia a little bit amongst the writers is going to be the seasons between 2013 through 2016 when he was kind of transitioning, again, getting a little older, a lot of velocity left the fastball, and he was kind of transitioning from a power pitcher to a finesse pitcher, and that took a while. Plus, he was having the weight issues and the knee issues, and a couple of seasons, he was just done early because he just could have put more pressure on the lead, so he would try to lose weight, but then he couldn't pitch the same, so he would gain weight again. Kind of a rough period. Overall, going 32-39, also hurting his ERA, but luckily he did bounce back in 2017, posting a 14-5 record, and then in that Game 5 divisional series on the road against his former team, the Cleveland Indians, pitched well. He didn't get the win to start the game, but went 4 innings before he got yanked out, and the Yankees would go to upset the Cleveland Indians that season. And again, he was very dependable. Probably, maybe it might be his last hurrah Yankee moment. We'll see what this season brings. So we'll see how the baseball writers judge his under 300 career wins, as well as a kind of a highish ERA. But again, such like Mussina, I think the baseball writers will consider the airy pitching. Again, from 2001 to 2008, before the Mitchell Report came out, again, you had PED use all over the place. You had steroids, home runs running rampant. He was pitching through that and putting up some good numbers, some wins. Yes, it affected his ERA a little bit early on, but again, he was successful and thriving and becoming the ace of the Cleveland Indians at the time. And then, also, we're in this era of the bullpens now. So a lot of times they're taking starters out early, not letting them go into the 5th or 6th inning, or a lot of times, you leave the game with a lead and the bullpen guy comes in and blows it. Where back in the day, maybe you just did a complete game and you got the win. No one cost you a win. So I'm sure, Sabathia had a lot of those along the way. So those are things to consider. But when you just look at the whole body of work, his whole career he was a starter. Not one of these guys that came up and he's like back and forth to the minors, and he's a reliever, and then he's a starter again. He's always been a starter. And yeah, maybe, he's not like a Clemens guy who was like an ace, every single year, but for most of his career, he was considered the ace. And just look at some of the accolades and the awards. 2007 Cy Young, 2009 World Championship with the Yankees, 6-time All-Star, and of course the creme de la creme, again, hitting that 3,000 strikeout plateau, which all but 2 pitchers who have gotten in, and I think Schilling will probably get in eventually. And you know what, maybe even Clement gets in, maybe on his final years, just like they're keeping him out just for punishment. So I think you could count on CC Sabathia being in, not a first ballot like Mariano would be, but it'll probably take him 3 or 4 years. But I think the writers will eventually put him in. Well, he rightfully claimed that when he does go in, it will be with a Yankee cap. Now, usually the camera should always be on me talking all the time for every show, but once in a while I'd like to invite a friend, just give you a little break. So I invited my friend here, Rafique Louison, from his show, Nothing But That Sports Talk. Now you can catch him on both YouTube as well as audio on Spotify. But here today, when he condensed, he talks about all sports, but we're here just to talk about Yankees. So welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
No problem. So tell me more about your show, Nothing But That Sports Talk. You know, how did it originate, where you want to take it, the whole deal.
Well, I originally wanted to talk about only basketball. Like, for example, the NBA playoffs, the NBA season, previewing the matchups, and all that extra stuff about basketball, including the NCAA tournament. But then I thought in my mind, why don't I just expand on to talking other sports rather than just basketball? Because I've been doing a lot of basketball talk on site, between the Ball for Peace games to the Big Three at the Barclays Center, you know, the Big Three hosted by Ice Cube, and to all the street ball games at Rucker Park and Dykeman. But now I'm literally trying to talk about baseball. It's rather, one of the main goals is to cover a Yankee game with this podcast on site. And also talking baseball with you as well. The
trade deadline, you know, they really need to start a pitcher. They did nothing, so, I mean, what were your thoughts on that?
Well, my thoughts is, I'm actually glad they did nothing because you don't want to pick up anybody where you're basically ruining the team. Like how when the Mets made that Marcus Stroman trade, and they attempted to trade Noah Syndergaard, but you know what? Sticking with the Yankees, they were smart for not making those trades. They were pretty banged up all season. Like, what more do you want?
Yeah, I mean, but you know, the one thing really needed starting pitcher. But I felt, look, there wasn't a deal out there for Cashman. And of course, you know, the Giants weren't going to let Bumgarner go. I mean, that's the only real guy you would think about bringing in. But you know, they kind of turned the season around. I just don't think Bumgarner's available anymore. And like I said, Stroman was out there. But for the Yankees, I don't know. To me, he's just like, He's like another number 2 or 3 starter. He's not really, you know, he's not like a wow that you would make a deal for.
Yeah, the Yankees were smart not to make any dumb trades because the trade could either make or break a team's season. And the Yankees, come on, over 71 wins? Why would you want to blow up this roster? They're not the Mets.
Exactly. Another thing, too, that you looked at, I mean, Cashman got burnt a little bit of pass. I mean, you look at the Michael Pineda trade, which, all right, he's had to give up like Jesus Montero, which didn't turn out to be great for Seattle, but Pineda didn't turn out what we thought it would be. And then, of course, 2 seasons ago, making that deal for Sonny Gray, giving up some good chips, including Dustin Fowler, who's turned out to be a good player, but then Sonny Gray turned out to be nothing. So, I don't know. I mean, just because you bring in a good starter means he's going to perform. So, you know what? Sometimes you're better off not making the trade. All right, so it's clear the Yankees are going to get the AL East. They're going into the playoffs. But now, how far are you think they're going to get? I mean, realistic, what's your prediction for this team in the postseason?
I'm predicting they're going to win it all. Because every time you manage to win a lot of games, whether injury-prone or not, you literally make yourself known to be a World Series candidate. Like, look at that in 2017. They were right there in the World Series when they weren't even supposed to make it that far. And then they choked to the Houston Astros after leading the series 3-2. In a one series where they came back from 2 games down to take out the Cleveland Indians. Do you remember that series?
Oh, yeah, I remember that. And it was great because after they're going 0-2, the Yankees were like, you know what, they almost played with house money. And you got a good start from Severino, good start from Tanaka. They go back to Cleveland. CC Sabathia, the former Indian of all players, starts that game. And of course, the Yankees, go on to win, but really, a little dicey with Chapman, in there. But at least that game proved me, at least with Chapman, that he can handle a big situation as a Yankee closer. So it gives me a little confidence there. But no, that was a great series. And the Houston series, definitely a heartbreak. I mean, Houston looked totally lost here. They didn't have a shot. And then we go back there and just couldn't close it out.
The problem is they had a tough time pitching against Justin Verlander and this Dallas guy. The pitching staff for Houston was just incredible, on the way to winning the World Series that year. And then the very next year, they didn't even show much of a fight after Gary Sanchez took out the Red Sox in Game 2. They were told no-show. And they did make it interesting in Game 4.
Oh, yeah, that ninth inning was incredible.
Yeah.
I did a whole spiel on that 9th inning. For me this season, again, same thing. I think this Yankee team is better than the 2017 team. It's good. It's just like, this is the starters, though. If we're going to go up against Houston, starter for starter, they got to stay on the edge here, especially making that deal with Zach Greinke, because now they have Verlander, Garrett Cole, Zach Greinke as their 1, 2, 3. That's going to be tough to hit. Now, if we get them to play him here, maybe we can beat him up, but down there for some reason, we just don't hit those guys. So I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, we know for a fact they're going to face either the Houston Astros or the Cleveland Indians. It's just a matter of what series they're going to face them at.
Yeah, it's true.
And it's also a matter of fact that whoever comes out in the National League, whether it be the Philadelphia Phillies or the Milwaukee Brewers or the Chicago Cubs, we could see a Yankee versus Chicago Cubs series.
That could happen. I think the Dodgers really right now clear above, but again, it would be awesome to have a Yankees-Dodgers World Series.
Yeah, the Dodgers, you mean the team that were runner-up in the World Series 2 years in a row? Yeah, they could not get it done.
That's true.
What makes you think they can get it done against the Yankees? I mean, come on.
Now, you recently interviewed Aaron Boone. Can you talk about that experience?
Man, that was a pretty good experience. I mean, anytime you get to interview a Yankee general manager or a coach, it's got to lead to something. Am I right?
Yeah. Now, what was the event about? They were trying to promote like food for the schools or something?
Yeah, it was a food summer meal event where they're giving free summer meals to the children that are involved with the camp, and they played that pool like right down the block.
Cool. Now, did you actually get to ask Aaron some questions, or how?
Yeah, I asked Aaron a few questions, but the majority of the questions were related to the pool event that's going on. And I know a lot of other people, Bruce Beck and a bunch of other guys, are asking about the trade deadline, and he was very unsure about it. But you know what? Like we said before, we gotta move forward when it comes to the trade.
So, and also at the event, you had the chance to interview Yankee outfielder Cameron Mabrin. How was that like?
Yeah, that was a pretty good experience, and the fact that I even get to interview a Yankee player is really something. And that was actually my first story I've done for WFUV News.
Cool. And what did I have to talk about?
Well, we mostly talked about the children events where they were fighting against disabilities, and Cameron Mabrin just happened to be there to like inspire all these young kids.
If you ever need a Yankee guest or something like that, I'll just love to come on anytime you can. I appreciate that. And it's better you talk about the Yankees and the Mets, because you don't want to talk about the Mets and make people sad and depressed. The Yankees will keep them happy, cheerful, stuff like that. You start talking about Mets, everyone's just gonna get sad.
Yeah, I would not get sad. You still got a chance to make the playoffs, Mets.
I know,
you still got a chance.
Oh, I didn't think
don't be sad about that. You're 4 games out of the wild card. And I told my friend Jimmy Sullivan, who's a WFTV guy, don't be mad about the Mets' chances. Don't get too depressed. He did win yesterday against the Pirates.
I said no, and they had the streak. They make the Stroman trade, which I was surprised. They don't deal Wheeler, because the Yankees were talking about Wheeler. So if you look at their rotation, again, maybe Houston has best starting rotation. The Mets, I would say, number 2. And again, if they... This is the bullpen's a disaster. That's really the problem.
Yeah, the problem. But the total opposite is with the Yankees. And as I was told by reliable sources out there, if you put the Mets bullpen with the Yankees starting pitcher, the teams will totally be trash.
Exactly. That's really what it is. I mean, if you just gave the Mets the Yankees bullpen, the Mets will probably be a first-place team. That's the importance of the bullpen. And just Brody Van Wagen, and I don't know how you didn't see that. I mean, really invested nothing in their bullpen. They picked up J.Was Familia, which was it was good like 3 years ago. He's been terrible, and they did nothing else. And bullpen's just been a disaster.
Yeah, and but switching to the New York Yankees real quick. Once CC Sabathia retires, I don't know what's going to happen with the Yankees pitching lineup.
Well, I think that kind of works itself out, because all right, Severino will be there next year. So you got Severino, you'll still have Paxton, you have Tanaka. Now you still have Happ on the contract, and now Domingo Germán, he's proven himself, and now the rotation will be good again, depending on everyone's health. So I think it'll be a good send-off for CC, though. Thanks for talking Yankees with me today.
No problem.
Once in a while I need a little assistance, and I think with the sun makes me heat. But tell us about your show. Where can people actually find your show?
Well, you can find my show on my YouTube channel, Rafique Louison. I have like 2 different YouTube channels, but it's the one where I'm wearing the suits and with the Sirius XM logos in the background. You can find me on Instagram, Rafique_LouisBK, and my Nothing But That Sports Talk Instagram page. And also you can listen to it on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, TuneIn app, all the streaming platforms, including Google Music.
So appreciate that. What are you still doing here? He gave you all the things. Go. Watch it. Go.
Watch the show.
Watch it. Go.
You're not going to regret it.